Rawgreg. How you doing, Rawgreg?
I'm doing pretty good, dude. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Ryan has given me the keys to the castle, so to speak. I'm a little bit nervous. It's kind of like, you know how like when you first get your driver's license, and like your mom like just like turns to you one day, and she's like, "Hey, can you like go to the grocery store real quick? Like you know how to do it. It's so easy, and it's a very simple
Right.
ask." But you're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, she let the bird out of the nest.
Dude, I'm like I've finally been uncaged. I am finally free, and yeah, here we are. So thanks for coming on, Roger. I really appreciate it.
Dude, I appreciate you having me on. This should be fun, man.
Oh yeah, I am super excited. And guys, if you didn't know, this is Around the Scene episode number 17. We are here every Wednesday for you to get your fix on all things Rocket League. If you like this, be sure to give us a follow or sub here on Twitch. Also, consider kicking us a buck over on patreon.com/playingwithrockets. We thank you for joining us and we encourage you to ask us questions there in chat as we go through the show. The only way to do that, though, is to join us at twitch.tv/playingwithrockets, where we are live every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to our Patreon sponsors for the month of August, who are Father of Five and Jonesy. And if you are listening on any of our other audio platforms, again, welcome. Guys, should be a phenomenal episode this week. And so for today's news segment, we have got 4 items. And Greg, we're going to start off with a big one first. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
So in Rocket League news, the first big piece, loot crates are going to be removed from Rocket League later this year. And so we got an official announcement from Psyonix and Epic. In fact, it was signed by both of them. I will read this to you guys really quickly. It's not much. Here at Psyonix and Epic Games as a whole, we are dedicated to creating the best possible experience for our players all over the world. In pursuit of that goal, later this year we will remove all paid, randomized crates from Rocket League, replacing them with a system that shows the exact items you're buying in advance. This is similar to changes implemented earlier this year by Fortnite Save the World team. Rocket Pass Premium, DLC cars, and esports shop items will continue to be offered for direct purchase alongside our new system. We will share more information, including timelines and rollout specifics, in the coming months. So that is it. They came out, they said it, and holy cow, I've seen such a divided reaction to this news, Greg.
Yeah, I actually what's weird about it is that it's so vague. Like, I mean, obviously it's probably going to be very similar to the Fortnite shop, but I don't play Fortnite, so I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I think the most interesting thing is that like in Rocket League, there's so many items that you could have that are just, you could get, let's just say like Zombas. Regular Zombas are, maybe a key, but you get white Zombas and you're talking about, 60, 70 keys. I'm interested to see how they divvy up the prices and if they're going to use, like Trade Central and all those like I would say like third party people to determine the prices and if they're even going to sell painted items or like it's just interesting. Like you could go so many different ways with this. It's exciting, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, so the one thing I noticed, as you said, was that they are definitely light on info. And if you go onto the main subreddit r/Rocket League, they had a couple of Psionic staff in there. I think Durkind and Corey were in there, and they answered some questions, but really there's not a whole lot. From our understanding, apparently players will be compensated in some way for the keys that they own. When you have crates in your inventory, what will happen, and again, this is according to their responses on Reddit, what will happen is that these crates are going to suddenly be replaced in some fashion or another along with the keys. So you'll get some sort of compensation, whether it's items or a new currency or if it's direct back Steam Cash. It's not even going to be Steam Cash because it's all in the Epic Games Store, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of info yet. So, of course, panic and speculation abound, us included, because we're going to largely speculate too. I'm interested to see what happens in the short term with expensive cosmetics.
Yeah, I just like it just feels like the one thing that you're taking away is okay, like let's look at like the esports shop, for example. You think about how the first couple go arounds the esports shop, everybody's looking at it. Okay, this is what's in the esports shop today. I remember somebody was like tweeting out like every day they were getting like 50, 60 likes and retweets on this tweet that was showing what was in the shop. But now you run to the certain point where it's like, okay, everybody has those items. So now, yeah, you might have those items that are being cycled through, but now it's just stale. So it just changes the availability of everything, and it changes like what is rarity anymore. Like, is it just the fact that you have an item and it's really really cool, or is it the price on it? It's just different. Like, I think that like part of the cool thing about having like a white octane or zombos or even to like the highest extent alpha boost is like there's only so many of those that come around, especially with alpha boost. It's actually a cap number. Um, but when you basically unlimit like this, and let's just say you put white zombies in the shop for a week or 2 days or whatever, how many people are going to buy that? So many people. Um, it's interesting, I think, but like it just changes the complete landscape of the way that psionics and the players make money.
Well, and that was what I was about to say too. In terms of how it directly affects the esports scene, again, a percentage, we don't know what that percentage, it's fairly low, but a percentage of those keys go to the prize pools and stuff for RLCS.
Right.
So, so if you take away the keys, okay, fine, but how are you going to start injecting fresh cash into the game? There's a lot of rumors and speculation that Epic wants to take Rocket League free to play. Well, okay, now how are you going to justify increasing, the size and breadth of the prize pool for the esports side? You're cutting yourself off in that sense, but they'll replace it with something. I think personally, I think the major reason they're doing this is I think they're just staying ahead of the curve of the whole gambling thing. Because look, guys, again, personal opinion, it's gambling. Okay,
It is.
it is. You're opening up a crate for a certain price and you're getting a
Because you want a
random
certain
item
item.
because you
Yeah.
want a certain item, but there's a small chance it's based on percentages and rarity. Listen, it's gambling, okay? And the sooner I think that you move away from that, frankly, the less of a headache you're going to have later.
It's interesting too because if you have like games like Clash of Clans, and I know I used to play this game on my phone. My God, what was it called? But basically, you download it for free, right? And then you get addicted to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, hey, do you want this super cool character or do you want the super cool skin? That's okay. Like, pay $15. It doesn't matter if you. Let's just say you think you're gonna play that game forever. That $15 that you put into the game is good because now they get their price of the game. They did nothing on like their end except get exposure to the game, right? You get more eyes on the game, which is the whole free to play aspect. And then you suck people in and you say, okay, you want this item? Pay $15, pay $2, pay whatever. And like, let's say White Zombie, it's like $30. This is the premier item in Rocket League. And I think when you start doing that, it becomes interesting because you're going to have more. It just opens up your like revenue pool because now all these free to play guys that are like, I'm not paying $20 for Rocket League, or I'm not paying however much for Rocket League, are going to say, oh, I'll download it for free. And then if they get addicted to it, then, the players have been playing for a long time, obviously buy those items. But now you might have more people get addicted to the game who are going to, in my opinion, spend money too eventually because that's what happens. And I think that it's a good thing for the money aspect of it. And it's a good thing because you take it away from, like you said, like it's gambling, dude. It really is gambling. How many times have you bought keys because you think you're going to get white zombies out of a player's choice crate? And then you spend $60 on keys, and then don't get white zombies, and you're like, dude, wait, I could have just bought white zombies.
Yeah, and that's and there's like a content element of it too, so,
True.
on that side of it, you have the whole presentation of it and you're opening up a crate and it's exciting and there's this music and there's the different colors. And so the reason, the other, aspect of this, I should say, is for the content creators too. They're part of a ecosystem, for this community. People like John Sandman, Pick a Pixel, um,
Like Athena and all
Athena,
that.
Rizzo. Again, not all of them do create stuff necessarily, but like the blind trading series, dead.
Yeah.
John Sandman does the crate opening Friday, dead. And John in particular put out a video. I watched it last night. talking about this, and he's like, I'm gonna be okay because I can do other things. But there, frankly, are probably people out there who have channels that are really gonna suffer because of this.
It's what's interesting though is that okay, you have a let's just say you have a content creator. Is that necessarily the image that Rocket League wants to put out? Like, yeah, those are fun videos to watch, but I also think that there's an aspect to it where it's like, here's a content creator showing our game, but the thing that they're showing in our game is like it's the gambling side of it. You're not even showing the whole aspect of the game. And I think that maybe Psyonix is thinking, okay, we'll get rid of the gambling side of it. We'll still make money. And then we get rid of that, like the negative image of gambling with content creators. And it forces content creators to be more creative, in my opinion, because how easy is it for a content creator, not money wise, that sucks. I don't know how that whole logistical thing works where you just buy keys or somebody gives you keys and crates, but man, like there's got to be a better way to make content than just have blind trading and crate openings. Because to me, that was always weird to me. It's like, okay, you opened up a sweet item. It's like, that's what you're excited about. Like you have John Sandman screaming because he got some very rare item that he's just going to trade up anyway. Like to me, I always hated that type of content because it didn't show what the game was actually about.
Yeah, it's something very similar to Counter Strike, right? Because we'll draw that parallel because it's largely up until this point the very same system where you have content creators where some are doing really creative things with the game, or maybe they have really high level gameplay that they'd like to show or whatever. But then you have again, it's like this again, and we'll say the word, it's gambling. You have this gambling side of it, and it's like it's almost like a dichotomy between the image that you want to have and what people enjoy. So I'd be
Yeah, true.
interested to hear a lot of opinions. Again, this is fairly brand new news for us, and we'll have to see what they come up with in the future. Because right now the details, frankly, are really light.
It is so small, but it's like a weird. There's a psychology aspect to it too, where it's like you have somebody like John Sandman, where I'm sure like morally Psyonix is like, no, I don't like that. But then it's like, look at how many views John Sandman gets on those videos, and it showcases basically their keys and all the items that they can buy. So I'm sure people are like, oh my god, I want that item, and then it forces, maybe not forces, but like puts a seed in somebody's head where they say, oh wait, dude, I really really want that item. And then now they buy more keys and it puts more money back into it. So I'm sure it's like a good money grab for Psyonix to have those videos out there. But I'm sure content creators will find a way to use this esports shop to make videos. That there's, in my opinion, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think again we're very fortunate in the Rocket League community. I think we have a group of really talented content creators at the top where I don't think that it's going to be like a huge hit to them, but it is definitely something to look out for. And again, it's just we're really light on details, so we'll have to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
Any last thoughts, or you want to move on to the next item we got here? Because the next
No, we
one's
can
pretty
move on.
juicy too. Again, we have a
Yeah.
real top heavy show for you tonight. So, in other Rocket League news, our favorite player, it's Killer Keemstar, looking to start to offer weekly tournaments similar to his Minecraft Monday and Fortnite Friday events. Um, so there's been a little bit of a mixed reaction to this one as well. I'll put that lightly. Again, Keemstar's been on Twitter. He's been sort of talking to some of the pros, and some of the community members trying to get this set up. Greg, what do you think about Keemstar looking to add, some sort of weekly event with Rocket League?
Oh man, it's good. It is. It's like the thing is that as a community, it sucks because I think that it's unfortunate that we're being so close minded to somebody coming in and saying, "Hey, I love your game," and we're like, "No, you're too this for our game." And it's like, yeah, we have a small community, and yeah, we're all everybody knows each other, but you want to allow somebody like Keemstar to come in and get eyes on the game. That's the most important thing, especially if it goes free to play, especially with what Epic's plans are. You get somebody putting money into tournaments that Psyonix is obviously not doing. They've been promising it forever, and they never do it. And now somebody's coming in saying, "Hey, we want to host a tournament," and we're like, "No, no, no, dude, you're this, like, you're too toxic for this community. Stop it." Because in all seriousness, we're going to be split regardless. So you bring somebody like Keemstar into the scene and you say, "All right, host this tournament." The community will figure it out itself. we will find the best way to make it look good for us and showcase our best streamers, content creators, and pros on those tournaments. And like the fact that you don't want eyes from a big time content creator like that, to me is just, I don't even understand it. It's like some moral high ground that we're taking that makes no sense.
Yeah, I think so. Again, for those who might not know who Keemstar is the owner slash primary character behind the Drama Alert YouTube channel. He's pretty big on YouTube. He has several million subscribers. He has a rather checkered past. He definitely gets very involved with the drama. He's and I'll let you do your own homework. I don't really want to spend a ton of time on the show here talking specifically about why people don't like him, but it's fair to say there are a lot of people that don't like him, and he's done objectively some not great things to people in the past.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I can understand like when the first reaction to hearing that Keemstar wants to do Rocket League stuff, and you're like, and you're like, no, not. But look,
Mm.
And this is what I'll say personally. Like, so talking about like Minecraft Monday, right? I've never played Minecraft before in my life. I know that's treasonous, and I'm sorry, but I've never played Minecraft. But I've watched, parts of Minecraft Monday because there's so many content creators doing it, and it's such a cool thing that like it's actually interesting to me. And again, I don't even know that much about Minecraft, and so you're telling me you can't 1-to-1 take that to Rocket League and have people who have never played Rocket League before, like getting eyes on and watching their favorite people play, like that would be awesome.
I think so too. Like, so that's your opinion on it. Like, you think that like it's a good thing.
I think the net positive would be worth it. I think short term there might be some, backlash, and it'd be interesting to see, I think, whether or not Psyonix lets him do it, because you have to remember that if there's a prize pool above a certain threshold, I think it's like $5,000. If the prize pool for any individual tournament exceeds that, you have to get special permission from Psyonix. I think this would qualify, but I'm not certain. So it'd be definitely something to see whether or not Psyonix themselves stop it. But personally, like I think it's a net positive. I really do, just because of the views. Period. The numbers.
But like it's crazy because you can't. In my opinion, you should not be outcasting people. Like, you want your game to grow, right? So you need to reach, in my opinion, Rocket League is so small compared to like, obviously like the bigger esports and stuff right now, because even if you're looking at like these little tournaments and stuff, we don't get as many views as other games like Counter-Strike and League of Legends and stuff like that. The idea is you get people like, oh wait, I understand this game, I like this game, and then they download it and then they play it, and then you get more you get more players on, and then those players are like, oh wait, who's this guy? It's just, you want eyes on the game. And in my opinion, not even just in my opinion, it's when you have like in marketing, any publicity is good publicity. So Keemstar bringing drama to Rocket League, good. I hope everybody in the entire world talks about us.
No, I mean, and there's a valid point to that, and I think this is something perhaps we'll go into a little bit more in depth on later, but you've definitely been involved, in the bubble scene, I'll say, in and around the professional side, like the exposure, like we don't have tons of great tournaments for outside of the professional level. Like we have some with Playing with Rockets, there are a couple of other organizations out there that run them, but like overall, like the depth to the tournament scene for the bubble, like for the bubble players, it's not that great.
No, it's non-existent too, because actually me and my teammate were talking about this Seal, and he was basically saying the same thing. Like, you talk about a tournament that's $100, you'll get a couple teams in there that are like decent bubble players or whatever. You start raising it to 250, 500. The minute you start getting above $500, G2, NRG, Cloud9, and it's like, now it's not a bubble tournament anymore. It's about another team coming in and just sweeping. You'll get a chance to play against those guys, but because you're isolated from them, there's no real chance for a bubble team to showcase, okay, we're the best of this. We're the best of like these people down here, without the presence of, the pros. And I think that having even just that aspect to Rocket League, where it's like we can have little tournaments where like the semi-pros, I guess you could call them, are making a big name for themselves at that level, that's good for the scene too. It's just like a minor league type of thing. You can't just have G2 coming in here on every single tournament and being like, oh yeah, we're playing, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going to get to the semis or quarters.
Yeah, and it's actually a great point too, talking about like the pro scene, because it also, I think, again, as it relates specifically to Keemstar, like you allow some of those personalities to come out. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, we have, certain like Turbo Pulsa, Rizzo, there
Hmm.
are certain, professional players that have sort of made a name for their own personalities, but bring in this guy Keemstar, who literally lives in drama. I mean, he lives and breathes it,
Yeah.
and make it interesting. Frankly, it's make it
You want
entertaining.
this game to be interesting, and like that's another thing that like there is so much in our community. Like it's car soccer. Don't get me wrong, but when you look at other games, like man, I watched a video about this kid that he played Madden, okay, and he was rapping and like smack talking his opponent while they were playing the game.
That's
And
awesome.
that's a normal thing that happens. And like and even in competitive sports, like when you're talking about any sport, trash talk, competitive like fire is a good thing. You talk about the Rocket League community, you start showing competitive fire at all, people are like, that's toxic, or we don't want him here. You know what? Suck it up because if it's a competitive game, you want that level of player. And it was like when Turbo's trash talking everybody, how many people love that? When Classics was doing it at RLCS, people love it. It's just nobody has the cojones to step up to the forefront and say, this is how I want to do it and this is what we're going to do. And people read like we're saying, they get outcasted rather than embraced by the community, and that's weird too because you want people to have personalities behind the car. You don't just want to see a name tag above a car. You want to associate that with something that you relate to or that you like doing, or like you're like, oh, I love him because he's competitive. Oh, I like him because he's quiet. Whatever. That's what you want. I like the individuality in Rocket League to shine, and I think Keemstar brings that. And if you say that he doesn't, then you don't follow him.
Yeah, and again, your opinion of Keemstar could be one thing or another, but there's no doubt that if he does this Rocket League thing, one, it'll bring the views, and two, it'll bring the drama and entertainment. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
doubt. So I think we have covered that fairly in depth. Do you have any last thoughts on our main man Keemstar?
No, no, no. That's I think we got everything, man.
And so again, if you want to check out Keemstar, you can look him up on Twitter and YouTube and stuff. You can sort of do your own homework, do your own research, and again, form an educated opinion. Okay, because don't just take our
Well,
words for it. Make sure you're
I
doing
was
your
gonna
own
say,
homework.
Seal said something in the chat. He said there's not enough diversity. There are a lot of like unspoken code of conduct rules, and that's true too. Like there's just so many little things that happen that like in professional play or in like even just like scrimmages or that it's almost like this like little safety bubble that you don't want people to show who they really are and like the individuality of everything. Like everybody's different behind their computer. Like we can't all just be some robots being like, "Oh, GG's, nice shot. Oh, good shot." Like that's not who you are. That's not what you're saying with your friends when you're playing against people either. Like you want to be able to see how many times do we like hear comms of like I remember when the Peeps released their comms for when they made RLCS. That's interesting, man. You get to see all their personalities come out.
Hmm.
Like what do they say to each other behind closed doors when they're making in the biggest tournament of their life? That's fun. That's why you root for them.
It's
And to not showcase it is stupid.
well, that's and the other event that's going on too. Actually, right now is Lawler's doing the brawl. For both the NA and EU side,
Yeah.
and I think it
Hmm.
was last week or the week before when he had the EU side. It was like Turbo Posa, Ronicky, and Cooks here on one team, and we cut to those comms. It was amazing. Now,
Right.
granted, the Ronicky stuff ended up coming out with them like 2 days after that, so the opinion of it may have changed a little bit. But it was hilarious, and like you just don't get to see that side of the players that often because we're in such a static environment, I guess, for the
Right.
esports side. So
No,
you
that's true. It's like right now it's weird too because it's the off season. So like in the off season, you want to be able to in the on season show your teams, show how good they play, show like the name tags in the cars. In the off season, show your personalities, brand yourself, make a name for yourself that's not like some just it just feels all so bland right now that they're not doing something. I give like really like big ups to Lawler for doing that because you're basically just showcasing players. It's a branding opportunity. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there are a ton of people watching too. I mean, his stream picks up like 1,500 to like 2,000 viewers when he does it. So it's like people are definitely interested in this sort of content, and like it's just we need more of it. So I think if Keemstar can bring that, it'll be
Yeah,
a nice change of pace.
yeah, I agree.
So, in other Rocket League news, Liquipedia RL has surpassed their total page view amount of 2018 in just 7 months into the year 2019. So, again, if you're not familiar, Liquipedia is I guess, like the ultimate esports resource for Rocket League. I mean, frankly, they have everything. They have tournament results, they have roster news, they have roster rumors, they've got all sorts of different stuff. And so, yeah, it's definitely good news to see that their traffic has increased immensely.
It shows growth, at least, for sure. I mean, it shows, but there's also been a big number of tournaments. So the more tournaments you have, the more stats you have on there, you should get more page views. But it's obviously good to see that almost in half the time you're getting just as much. That's a positive sign.
Yeah, I was just about to say that too. I do think it helps that because we just had the RLCS land, right, towards the June area, it definitely helps out the numbers. But again, I mean, basically, like what they're saying is that in theory, like it's almost on track to double the amount of page views in 2019, right?
Right.
So, when you say it that way, you're like, oh man.
Right. Then it's like, oh wow, like we're doubling the growth. Maybe not that much, but it's a really, really positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'll say that a lot of the page views are mine just by doing this show. Frankly, we'll have we'll have roster news and stuff, and I'll be like, "Wait, who is this person again? Or what team are they on? And
Right.
what was their result?" But it's such a good resource, and those guys do such a good job there, like of organizing everything and having it's a really clean layout. Like I like that it's not too what's what I'm looking for, like too spread out. Everything's sort of in one place. It's very easy to go through. So yeah, if you don't know Liquipedia, go check them out because they're amazing. They're an amazing resource for the Rocket League esports scene.
Yeah, I think like the most interesting stuff on there is like it's not even just team news and results. It's like, their camera settings or like it's like dates too. Like, oh, Chicago leaves Allegiance on this date. Chicago joins G2 this date. Like, or Chicago joins Evil Geniuses. Like all that stuff is interesting too because it's like, man, you get to create like a timeline in your head where you're like, whoa, this player came up from this point and now he's here, and all that stuff is so good to have because you can easily go find somebody that you want to look up on there and track their career basically through like little milestones. I like that.
Oh yeah, totally. Again,
And by Allegiance, I meant what's that team? He was on Fibion, wasn't he? Was he Fibion?
before
No.
G2,
Yeah.
I believe he came from
Dignitas.
No, it was another North American team.
Because I think it was Chicago, Zohei, and Hato, and then from Zohei and Hato, then Zohei and Hato picked up Lachinio, if I'm not mistaken.
You know what we're gonna do right now? We're gonna go on Wikipedia. If I can pull it up. Oh, of course. See,
I know he played with Zohei and Hato in RLRS.
But yeah, point is, if 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 you're looking for that sort of info, definitely a good place to go, and it's good that people are taking a much more significant interest. I think it also, again, another thing to consider is because we've had so many roster moves, like big roster moves this offseason, that definitely drives it forward.
Yeah.
Thank you, Savvy Seal got me in chat. He went from Evil Geniuses to G2.
But Fibion to EG.
Yes.
So it was Zohei Hato. Yeah, and it was like Dignitas. Yeah, because it was like Fibion. Yeah, that's an interesting little career path for Chicago, though.
Well, hey, he's at the top now. You got to give him credit.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely. He's a great player.
Any other thoughts on Liquipedia?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so then we have one last piece of Rocket League news. Dignitas will be replacing Triple Trouble at Beyond the Summit. So obviously with the circus that has been Triple Trouble, with the completion being the total disbanding of their team and their forfeiture of the RLCS spot, it was clearly a bad situation where they did not want to go to Beyond the Summit. So they have been replaced by Dignitas, and man, that is a juicy matchup for Beyond the Summit just because of the players that'll be there.
Yeah, I think Triple Trouble and like Dignitas getting there again, that's good because I think that Dignitas is one of those teams that's an interesting story too because you like K-Dop leaves and then they tried doing it with what was it, Yukio, and they don't do well. And then all of a sudden now K-Dop and Turbo, who have been there through everything, now Turbo gets kicked or whatever happened to him. And now you have Dignitas, which is like just almost like a shell of itself, but with Violent Panda. And I hope they do well, but you can tell like this is picking up somebody like Astral compared to somebody like maybe at the top is it's an interesting move. It's a bold move for Violent Panda. Completely bold move to take somebody that basically hasn't obviously mechanically very good, but like you're taking a chance on somebody. I respect it. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and the other brilliant part too is that all of the old members of the dominant era of Dignitas, so Turbo Pulsa, Violent Panda, and K-Dop,
Yeah.
will all be there, but will all be there on different teams. So
Yeah.
that is definitely some tea, if you will,
Sure.
to get that event started. But beyond the summit in general too, like that's another one. We were talking about having like personality and stuff come into the scene. I can't wait to see what Beyond the Summit does for that because that should be a phenomenal event.
It should be because it's like Gold Rush. I remember when they put on that Gold Rush and everybody's like it's just cool to have like a scenario where everybody it's not like some huge land with a crowd. It's just like a very, very tight knit, like I don't know, like it's just a closed circuit like group of people where everybody gets to showcase their personality. That's good too.
Do you
And
think?
it makes it beneficial for them.
Do you think that? So like when you have a situation again, like we're talking about Dignitas here, where it's a bunch of like former players, all sort of like meeting up back at the same event, like. Do you think it's like hostile? Like, do you think they still like hold grudges, or do you think most of them like at this point are just kind of like, it's whatever? Because I think like there might be an appearance where they might not care, but I have to imagine like for a lot of these guys, like deep down, like oh, there has to be some feelings there.
There's feelings, but it's like it's weird because money's involved. You know what I mean? It's like I think when okay, let's just say like an example like Yukio leaving Flipside.
Mm-hmm.
Yukio goes to Dignitas, and do you think the Flipside guys hate him? I mean, Dignitas probably offered him a ton of money. So it's like on one end, you're like, hey, dude, congratulations. You're doing exactly what you came up into the scene for. And I think with maybe the exception of Violent Panda, I don't think K-Dop and Turbo are going to hold any ill will towards like anybody because K-Dop wins the world championship, gets paid, right? Violent Panda's still getting paid. Like they're still where they need to be. I think if they just completely fell off, like the Triple Trouble thing, that's crazy. Because one, no money involved. Two, friendship involved. Three, complete drama everywhere on Twitter and everything. But I think when you're at the top and you're at that pro level, it's more business. It's just, hey, you're leaving to make money. Hey, you're leaving to do this. I get it. But if it was like a bubble team that was coming up or a team that's orglets, like you said, Triple Trouble, everything changes because now it's like Ronicky goes to get money. I forget what else happened, but now Tadpole loses his spot. That's frustrating because now it's like I'm out. They're still in. K-Dop, Turbo, Valentine, they're all in. It's just on different teams. Yeah, there's feelings involved for sure because there's memories, but the money aspect I think changes a lot of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too that you bring up because like let's say Triple Trouble had an org, before this thing shakes out, like you're probably forfeiting the contract too. It's like there's a lot of you have all that money on the line. You can't just be like, all right, well, guess what, I'm out. Like peace.
Yeah.
And when you have a team like, versus like being under Dignitas, who are a legitimate and respected org, not just in Rocket League, but across the esports landscape, like yeah, like that thing's worth its weight in gold, and so it probably you know
In my opinion, it doesn't happen. That does not happen if they're orged. Like, because I think that at that point, it's like, hey, we're all making money where we need to be. Like, this is all where we want to be. Ronicky goes to FC Barcelona. He's making money now. Now his other team is looking at him like, okay, they're not making money. Do you know what I mean? So for Ronicky, it's like, good for you, but what about us? Like, their goals, if they were as close as friends as I thought they were, and I know they are, or were, whatever, they were all talking about making money together. Like, now you have somebody separated making their own money. There's feelings towards that. There has to be. Because you even came out like in those twit longers and you saw people say like, oh, everybody thought Ronicky was a star player. Everybody thought this guy, but he told me I was a star player. There's feelings because somebody now is making money. Somebody now is in the scene, etched in it. Where now Tadpole, who is a great player in his own right, not making money out of RLCS and scrambling, and that's not fair. That's, in my opinion, that sucks. But with like K-Dop and Violent Panda and them, to me, they're all still at the pinnacle of like their career, where at any given point they could have one roster change, or even with their current roster, and be back at the top, and you wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, and again, Turbo, again, along with that Dignitas roster, I think, that's a great point that you make. It's not like Dignitas kicked Turbo and then he got like dropped into RLRS. Like he is going to what is now almost certainly the best team in North America. Like
Right.
there's no drop off for him. So when you still have those benefits of being at the very top level and again still with an org, so you're still salaried and making money, like you're still living the dream in a sense, but
Right.
you just got to be careful, I guess. It's just
And yeah, and like
it's so
I don't
much.
think that I don't think there were bridges burned there. It doesn't feel, not that I know like a ton of the ins and outs, but it doesn't feel like there were bridges burned. With Triple Trouble, that is completely a burned bridge. Like that's something where you don't forget that when somebody leaves you for money and you start talking about how you're going to make it together and somebody starts leaving you for money, not that you should cross business and friendship like Seal's saying, definitely not. But like you feelings come into play at that point. It has to, because now all of a sudden you're placing a money value on the worth of a player, so that hurts your ego. And anytime egos get involved at that level, it's definitely feelings are going to be hurt.
Yeah, and again, we've kind of in past episodes talked about this a lot. With Ryan, with other people we've had on the show, and it's like being so young and being in this situation, like there's just so much going on that it just sort of spills over in a lot of ways, and you don't
Yeah.
like to see it, but it's just sort of the way it is. And speaking of some of this stuff, we kind of briefly touched on this already, but we're going to transition very, very smoothly into our next segment here, which is the roster shuffle. And
Mm.
so I have two pieces here right at the top. I'm going to say them at the same time because we kind of both already know, we've both already talked about it. Alpha 54 to TSM has been confirmed. Roniki joining FC Barcelona has been confirmed. So obviously those moves have
Right.
been largely talked about and speculated, but they are now official. So there you have it. The shuffle continues on.
Yeah.
So just a heads up that those are official. But our next piece here in the roster shuffle, I think, has not gotten as much coverage and certainly deserves its own comment. So Ajax will be joining the Birds and Bees. They made this announcement a couple of days ago. Greg, what do you think of Ajax getting in on this roster here?
That's a good move. Like that's one of those players that he makes RLRS. He's made RLRS what, past 2 seasons with basically the same team, Timon and I want to say Mala, or Timon and whoever he's playing with Manhattan, and they make it because they're all those guys are talented players. And I think that with six mans being a thing, and him getting rank S, and he's playing with a wider variety of players, where I think a lot of players saw it in the first place that Ajax was a good player. But when you start putting him at high level games and he's showcasing what he can do and what he brings to a team, it makes sense. I mean, that's a really, really good player that deserves a chance. So I think that that's a really solid roster move.
Oh, I don't disagree in the slightest. Again, I've been following the scene for a bit. And Ajax, I feel like, has always been a player that has sort of been on like the fringe of the RLCS. Like someone that's been very close but hasn't really been able to stick with a roster that has really risen to the top level. So I'm so happy for him that he's getting this chance to do this because again, on paper, it feels like a good move, right?
It feels like a good, but this is the thing. It's like you're replacing Mist.
Yeah.
So it's like, on one end, it's like, I understand they had a lot of, there's a lot of snaking going on that team, but Mist is still a good player. At the end of the day, like you're missing out on your, in my opinion, your best player. And now you have to replace your best player with somebody that obviously is very, very talented. And so I don't know if it's going to be like a direct, like, oh, this is going to be an amazing move, but Ajax has big shoes to fill for sure.
Oh, no doubt. And the other, element of this as well that I kind of want to get into while we're on this subject is it raises the question of where in the world is Drippe going? Because, this was a move that was perhaps speculated that, you know, EG was going to, acquire the Birds and Bees roster and add Drippe, but now that doesn't seem to be the case, so his options are becoming more and more limited by the day.
Yeah. I don't know. I right now I don't see. Well, I don't see it. Well, obviously not in RLCS right now. That a team in North America at least is going to add him, and with Evil Geniuses still being sponsoring him and everything, like Evil Geniuses is not going to jump into RLRS. So I don't see that there's no fit right now.
Well,
And so it leaves him either on the outside or he's going to have to move back to OCE or we have to look at Europe. It's weird, man. It's just a weird situation. And it's unfortunate for Drippe because he goes from being literally the best player in OCE by a pretty wide margin, in my opinion, to now being lost in the shuffle of a very, very competitive North American scene.
well, the only other spot I think that would make sense is Ghost, right? I mean, Ghost is a
I don't,
roster they've been trying out, some different thirds. The large rumor, of course, is Lethemir is not going to be on that roster for much longer, but it's really the only spot in North America that makes sense at this point because he's not doing RLRS.
I, I just don't see Ghost doing that because I think that the players that they're trying out right now just seem to have more of the play style that I think would fit Memory and Illusion better. And like speaking of like Mist and Atomic,
Right,
it's
right.
those are the type of players that are coming up in North America. And I think Drippe has that play style where it's like a niche play style. And I'm not and this is no offense to Corrupted G or anything. It's just that like there are certain players and play styles that you're looking for at that top level. And I don't think that Drippe fits the dynamic play style that you need to play at that level consistently. And I think that teams that try him out, they know that. They know that.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, because I saw this, as we were compiling, our notes for the show, and I was thinking about this, and I was looking, and I'm like, man, it feels like so long ago that we considered Drippe to be one of the best players in the world. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like a lifetime ago where he was dominating OCE, coming over to LAN, on the Chiefs and just absolutely tearing it up. It's like how in the world did you go from that to getting stuck in this spot here? Like it's mind blowing to me, Like it feels so
It's like
long ago.
it's like big fish, small pond though. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, you're a monster, right? It's like, oh, you're a monster in college if you're, a professional or a college football player. It's different when you come in and play with the big boys and they're looking for something. Obviously, Drippe thought he had it made for him when he came here. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he thought it was going to be like a transition. I knew he knew he had to work hard, but like I don't think he ever expected this. But now you're here, and it's like there are so many players. The skill ceiling from pros to the bubble scene is closing so quickly. It's just about consistency. So what players are looking for at the top is more of a dynamic. You have to be dynamic, and you have to be consistently dynamic. And I don't think that Drippe, amazing shooter, great rotator, quick, but you don't see that like level of creativity that certain players that are coming up and these like orgs are looking for. Yeah, I don't see those qualities in him right now. And that's not like that's no knock on Dripping. He's a great player and he would I'm sure he would do good on a team. It's just there's so you're looking for something in the new meta that I just don't think that Drippe has right now.
See, and that's really interesting too because and I'll give credit to a Savvy Seal in the Twitch chat here. Made a mention of it as well because I was thinking the same thing. Having evil geniuses behind you is like super
Yeah, true.
attractive. We were talking about orgs earlier, like knowing that he has evil geniuses backing him, and if you bring in Drippe, like let's say for example your birds and bees, right, and instead of going Ajax, you go Drippe. Well, now you have an org behind you too, so
Right.
there is that element of it, where you're bringing in you're not just bringing in the player, but you're bringing in
The org, yeah.
everything behind him. So, for that reason, I think I'm a little bit, surprised that we haven't seen him land somewhere yet, just because I think that element alone would be worth a lot.
It would, but it's a measure then, because then you go into let's just say it's RLCS or RLRS. You have to now measure yourself up and say, am I bottom two? Or am I bottom four? And if you are bottom two or bottom four, it's tough because if let's just say you're bottom 2 with him, now you have to play in that relegation tournament. Are you 100% confident that you're going to win with him? Because if you lose that, now you're out. And I think that it's more like short-term decision versus long-term decision. That's basically what this comes down to. Short-term decision, okay, let's just say I make, X amount of money a month with Drippe on our team and we play for 4 months or 3 months. Sweet. But what if we get relegated? If we get relegated, then it doesn't matter. And I think that that's the decision that's being weighed. Are we good enough to stay long term where we need to be, or is it going to be like, okay, well, we got Drippe, but now we did decent, but now I'm going to kick Drippe?
Definitely a lot to consider there. And again, we will be following the Drippe situation as it develops. But again, as we said off the top here, there is one less roster for him to join in North America anyway, as Ajax has officially joined the Birds and the Bees. And with that, moving on to our last piece of the roster shuffle, Niels Koch has left Veloce. And so this is, of course, in tandem with the strongly rumored consideration that Cassio is going to be the replacement and Veloce will promote into the RLCS with Cassio over Niels Koch.
Yeah, I just think that with Niels Koch, you had somebody that was in the beginning, not even beginning, like I'd say a couple seasons ago when he was with, what was it, Excel, with Markey and Poundex. You could see how good Niels Koch was. He was, I think he was MVP. A really, really, really good player at that time. But now I don't see, like, you don't see the grind from him. I just don't see like the hunger from him. And you have somebody like Cassio and Ronicky and all these other players coming up. You see the hunger. You see them grinding the game, and you can tell they're getting better. And I think it's just that simple. It's like, hey, do you care? Do you want to do this? And a lot of these pros aren't putting in the time. And if you're not putting in the time every single day and doing what these like rank X players are doing, and even rank A, like players are doing, you'll find yourself being replaced 100%.
Oh, certainly. And again, it's this is sort of the last piece of that roster shuffle on the EU side. Where it's just okay, here it is, and here's our player, and this is what we're doing. So, you gotta respect it, and we'll see how they do in their LCS. It's going to be very interesting.
That's a good move in my opinion. That's a good move.
I tend to agree.
Really, really good player, and Niels Koch is somebody that, in my opinion, is on the way down. And it's not like he's somebody like, even somebody like Corrupted G who gets bounced out of RLCS. I'm looking at him now. You see him in ranked all the time. You see him playing 6-mans all the time. He's hungry. He still wants it. That's somebody you want. When you look at Niels Koch, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing to keep your spot? What are you doing to prove to people that you're not like a shell of the former? I think wasn't he MVP?
It may have been a while ago.
I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was MVP. But he had insane stat lines, and he was carrying his team. And that's not like saying no disrespect to the other players on the team, but I'm saying that team was good, and he was carrying them, and that just shows how good he was at one time. And I think that when you see such a drop off from a player like that, the only thing you can question is, okay, do you want it anymore? Do you think that this game is for you? And you could tell if somebody loves the game, they love the game. If they don't love the game, you'll see the drop off.
Yeah. So again, with that last piece of news, that concludes our segment of the roster shuffle. And so, we have, I'd say about, 10 or so minutes left here. We were talking about a couple of different topics for our, freewheeling segment here in just a little bit of time. One of the things that I wanted to get into was talking about like the level of the bubble scene and the talent that we're seeing rising up through the ranks. And again, I'll sort of let you take the lead on this because you're currently on a team I think that would be considered a bubble team, and you guys have been posting some really good results lately.
Decent results, but yeah, I think the bubble scene's in a weird place, just especially North America. I think we were talking about it a little bit before the show, but like it used to be very, very inclusive, and everybody was kind of on the same page, same team. Obviously, there's always been that like level of exclusivity where you want to keep certain players out, you want to keep certain players in. That'll always happen in any sport you play. But right now, I think the age gap and the level of younger players coming up in the bubble scene, even with just like somebody like Squishy and Justin being like the meta for North America, the players that are coming up, that's what they want to play like. They look at them and they're like, I'm going to do that. So you have these like players that don't have the same tangible skills that Justin and Squishy have, that the rotation, the positioning, trying to do the stuff that they're doing. And every once in a while, you're like, damn, like he can do that. But you don't have all the other fundamentals down. And I think that in the bubble scene, you'll see players all the time come out like now that are, like I was saying, like they're young. They're so young. And those are the players coming up. You don't see people that are like, 20, 21 years old coming into the scene and making like a big splash.
Yeah, we've definitely seen, like, again, at least at the very top level, like the scene as of late in North America has obviously trended downwards. And when you're talking about players like Fireburner, who just retired, is fairly older. You have two on the same team, Kronovi and Wonder, both are relatively older. I say older, I think they're still younger than me. I'm 23. They're like 21, 22.
Yep.
And it's so funny because I'm not going to say that I'm a, again, this was something we said before the show. Like, if if you want to consider yourself a bubble player, I think I'm like the step below. Like, I think I'm like a rank B player, six mans. So like good, but not like pushing on the door of the of the professional scene. But like there's someone that I play with all the time. And same thing. He's really young. He's like 15. But his mechanics are just so nuts. It's like, man, I wish I could do that sort of stuff. But then you could keep the composure and level-headedness that I have.
Right, right. And it's like, I just saw what Seal posted, like rotations and team chemistry are becoming a thing of the past. It's like there's so much that goes into being a team now because the skill ceiling is closing. You're going to have players doing nuts things. It's going to come down to consistency. It's going to come down to reads, and eventually passing and synergy matters. It does. And that's why I think that, teams that stay together tend to have better results. And I think right now you actually there was a season where there was like basically no roster changes at all, because I think teams are starting to feel that way. And it was like, okay, we're all good. We're not going to bring anybody up. But now you have all these teams being like, okay, you did bad. I'm replacing you with this guy, and he's nuts, and he's going to be amazing. The craziest one to me was Sathu getting replaced off a space station. That's a move that you have somebody that literally built the team. He built it, constructed it, figured out this is exactly the way we should play. And then they said, you know what we want? Arsenal, who's a nutty player, very fast, but like you lost a vocal leader, you lost a captain, and you lost a glue piece. And it seems to be where like these players would rather have somebody that maybe could go nuts for a game than have somebody that's going to be consistently there for you. And I think that's just like a lost art in Rocket League, that somebody's going to sit back there and allow other players to do what they're comfortable doing. And eventually, I think more and more as this game evolves, you're going to see teams stick together more, and the teams that stick together more, Cloud9, even Dignitas for that little bit, they were unstoppable because they read each other. They played together, they practiced together. It's a synergy. And it's important to know when you're on the same page, because when the game is moving that fast, you don't ever want to question what your teammate's doing. You want to always say, this is what he's doing, I'm reacting to that. Like, I think eventually the meta is going to move more towards team chemistry, although right now it seems like it's moving away from it.
Yeah, it's one of those things we've seen where, with the success of Renault Vitality, and everyone says, oh, they're all just a bunch of ones players. But like, the reality is, like, when they first put that roster together, in Renault Vitality, like, they sucked. I mean, frankly, they sucked because they didn't have the chemistry. And It took them a full season, almost getting relegated. It took them that full season and then an off season to finally sit down together and be like, okay, this is how we play together. And then you know what happened? Of course, once they figured it out, yeah, they won the whole thing. They crushed EU league play, and then they won RLCS. It's like, you have to give yourself that time and that patience, but it's difficult because you also need the results.
Mm-hmm.
In the bubble scene, you're so reliant on the results. Once you feel like you have a couple of bad results thrown together, it's like, well, we need to improve immediately. Unless we're one of the top 5 teams in the world. That's how it seems.
Well, it seems that way, and I think it's true. Like a lot of, I'll say, like quote unquote bubble players, they, like, I always, I think you guys had Kevford on here one time, but we always, like, I learned something from him where it was like, if you constantly stress about tournament results and you're getting bad tournament results, there's a reason you're getting bad tournament results. It's not because you're just getting bad tournament results. You're getting bad tournament results because you're not at that level yet. So you need to figure out what you need to do better. And I think a lot of these players go, I am the best, and I am one of the best, and I'm better than him, and I'm better than him. So let's just find a team that's nuts, and then we're gonna make it. And it's like that's not how it works. Get better, improve yourself, find your own team, get your synergy together, and then when you get that level of chemistry and self improvement, then all of a sudden everything's gonna start making more sense, and teams will stay together. Like, and I think teams will, I mean, have more success. But the teams that stay together and do that like cohesively and like together, that's the teams that succeed. And in the bubble scene, it's always like, oh, I think I'm better than this player, therefore I'm going to grab these two players. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you're right. The bubble scene is completely results driven, 100%.
And the other thing too is, especially, because the big thing, of the bubble scene is obviously to qualify into the RLRS, so you have that sort of gateway, and it's like when it's so dependent upon one qualification tournament for however many spots, there's going to be that volatility because all you have to do is just be on that one day or that weekend, I guess. Depending on how they do it, it's like everything boils down to that one weekend. If you're really trying to make the push, and it just results in people making rash decisions. But I don't blame them. I don't. That's the thing. Like, I don't. At the end of the day, like, I don't blame players who are looking around and being like, I can do better with teammate X and Y as opposed to teammate B and C. Like, if you think that's the move, I mean, go for it. But it's rough, man. It's rough, and I'm sure you know much better than I.
Well, it's weird because I don't, because I've seen it happen to players that I know, but like the way that my team's always worked, it's been on trust. Like everything's been built on trust, and like I was telling you before, like Bork and Savvy have been together for, I mean, literally, dude, 2.5 years. So that's a level of chemistry I can't even describe to you the level of synergy that they have. So when you're slotting into that, it becomes easier for me to play. It becomes easier for everybody to play. But when you start trying to figure out what everybody plays like on a different style, then it's harder to read. And I think that some players find success immediately, and you call it honeymooning or whatever. But that honeymoon phase dies. It always does. And then you have to now figure out what are the weaknesses. Whereas teams that have stuck together, they know their weaknesses, they know their strengths, and then knowing that, you build off of that. And that's why teams excel when they have synergy like that. And at the bubble scene, I really, really think that it's important for teams to stay together because you will have more consistent results for sure. If you're so much better than your teammates and it's true, then yeah, go look for another team. But I often right now in like the rank A, rank X scene, I don't think it's like that. And it's like the rank B players that always like rank B plus, they're always sitting there, oh no, I'm gonna get this team and we're gonna make it. No, you won't. You won't. That's not how it works.
Yeah, well, hey, as one of those rank B players, listen, we got to look up to something, okay? Got to try and dig ourselves out of the hole here.
For sure. For sure. And unfortunately, it's 6-mans, which sucks too.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's one of those things that, we could probably sit here and talk for a long time about 6-mans, but I don't. One, we don't have that kind of time currently, and two, I don't really want to get into it that much.
No,
but
that's a tough subject.
Yeah, but at least the opportunities are there. At least you can, if you find the right people, and that's the thing. If you find the right people, the opportunity is there. So
yeah, absolutely.
You just got to know when to take it, I guess, right?
Like and it's so much more than skill too. Like there are so many players that, like, if you have a duo team and you find a third player, the skill level, like if you just judge like purely based on skill, then you might not find the best player. But there could be 10 to 15 players that you're looking at or you're not looking at that can come onto your team and immediately make a better impact just because of, it could be like the energy that they bring, it could be the friendship level you have, just the confidence and the vibes. So much of that, I know you probably know too, when you play, like when you're playing confident and you're playing happy and free, you play better. So when you have somebody that's either clogging you up or making you feel like shit, that makes you play worse, 100%. I don't care how good he is. I really sincerely don't. And sometimes you feel like if somebody's that much better than you, like, you get nervous. You're like, oh my god, does this guy think I'm shit? Does he think I'm a bad player? You don't want that. Like Seal said, you got to find players that elevate your own style. Like, what does somebody on your team do that makes you better? And if you can't find like teammates that do that for you or that you trust, then yeah, you're on the wrong team. But sticking together with people that you know that you can build something with, that's, in my opinion, one of the most important things you could do.
Absolutely. I think we have gotten some incredible and sage wisdom from our man Rawgreg here. We're just about to wrap up the show. Any last thoughts? Any parting considerations? What's your where can we follow you? Where can we watch your stuff? You got a Twitch? You got a Twitter?
I do have a Twitch, but I don't know if I can stream yet. I just got new internet, so we'll see. That's just Rawgreg HXC, and then my Twitter is at RawgregRL. Yeah.
And so,
Shout out
guys,
to my team. By the way, shout out to my team.
oh,
Bork and Steel.
listen, it sounds like you have great teammates. So I
They're the
think
best.
I think you're very blessed in that regard. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Once again, be sure to follow us here on Twitch. You can stay up to date with us as well as we go live each week. We'll be uploading this episode later on YouTube and to various podcast services. We have Spotify, we have iTunes, we have Pocket Cast, we have Google Play Music. We are everywhere. Those links will be made available to you if you happen to miss today's live recording. We are also only we're like 5 subs away from getting that 100 subs on YouTube. So guys, if you're listening, toss us that sub on YouTube, man. If you love the content, show out. Listen, I'm gonna go full sell for my man's at playing with Rockets, okay? Because listen, these guys do an incredible job, and I want to see as much support as we can get. But thank you so much. I just went full hard sellout right there.
No, dude, no, we got you. The cheat spot. That's all my guys on my Discord. We'll get you to 100 subs literally right now. I'm dead serious right now.
Lit. So again, guys, you can follow me personally. My Twitter handle is at Perino TV. You can also follow me on Twitch. I should be back online tomorrow. I'm also waiting on new internet. Thank you, Verizon. Again, you can follow me on Twitch at Perino. This has been Around the Scene presented by Playing with Rockets. I am Perino. This is my friend Rawgreg, and it has been our pleasure to have you with us, guys. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your evening. We will see you next week. Thank you, guys.